first. Do you know how to stump a lefty? How you can determine whether someone is a sensible, old-school leftist concerned about the working class and issues like equality and free speech, or whether they're a new-age lunatic leftist who has traded logic and facts for delusion and neo-Marxist wackery? Well, you can determine whether they're a serious person or one on the grips of an insane ideology by asking them the simplest of questions, like, what is a woman? We've seen that question stump many gutless bureaucrats and politicians, but I never thought that Australia's first female Prime Minister, the first woman in the lodge as leader of this great nation, would be incapable of answering what is a woman. But here we are. Yesterday, Julia Gillard was trending on Twitter for all the wrong reasons. Footage emerged of Ms. Gillard floundering hopelessly as she failed to answer that simple question. Australia's first female Prime Minister seems to think what is a woman is some sort of a gotcha question.
What is a woman? And do you agree with Queensland's Attorney General Minister for Women, Sharon Fentiman, that trans women are women, and with the UK's leader of the Labor Party, Sir Keir Starmer, that some women have a penis?
Look, I'm very happy to answer your question, but I do worry that, and I should just say, I spend around half of each year in the UK. And in the UK, this has turned into a kind of got-you parlour game. So if you're listening to the radio, you literally, there'll be some person on there from London City Council who's trying to tell you why the traffic's not going to flow well that day. And the journo will be saying, and can you tell me what a woman is? To try and create these gotcha moments. And I think we've just got to move away from all of that and just come at this once again from first principles.
First principles, Ms. Gillard? Really? You want to talk about first principles and you can't answer that fundamental question? We are a minute into an answer that should have taken 3 seconds to answer. Even Albo managed to answer that question without beclowning himself.
What is a woman, Prime Minister?
An adult female.
How difficult was that to answer?
Not too hard.
Not too hard. Not too hard at all. Now, let's go back to Julia Gillard and see if after that minute of waffle, she actually manages to commit to an answer.
We as a community are full of people with diverse stories and diverse life experiences. Amongst that rich diversity, which, as Francis says, is powerful, there are a number of people who genuinely believe that they are trapped in the wrong body and they want to be recognised as the gender that their mind and soul have for always told them that they are. And that doesn't go one way, it goes both ways.
Okay, the gender their mind and soul have always told them they are. That's a direct quote. Remember, Julia Gillard is an atheist, but she apparently has some sort of a zealot-like belief in trans ideology. Now, she started this diatribe by saying she was very happy to answer the question, but in 4 long minutes, she failed to say what is a woman, but she makes clear what her priorities are, and it ain't women.
I think we've just got to say, like we'd want to show everybody else in the community, love, inclusion and respect, we should do that for each of those individuals. And then there are a set of issues that need to be thought through about prison arrangements, about fairness in elite sport, those sorts of things that we're up to thinking about and working through if we try and do it inclusively.
Inclusively. Inclusively. Just focus on inclusion in women's sport. women's spaces like women's prisons, really, Julia. So to hell with the concerns of real women who do not want male bodies intruding into their private spaces or destroying their chances in sporting pursuits. Just focus on being inclusive. And Ms Gillard seems to think this isn't such a big issue because, after all, most women don't play elite sport, end up in prison.
You know, most people in their lives won't end up playing elite sport. Most people in their lives won't end up in prison. Most people in their lives will encounter at some point someone who is a transsexual person, and I think what really counts is the openness and the spirit of inclusion.
So to hell with you women concerned about your sex-based rights being eroded. To hell with those of you who are seeing the very idea of a womanhood under attack and are concerned about that. Where even words like mother and breastfeeding are considered non-inclusive, where the word woman has been replaced with ugly, dehumanising terms like bleeders, menstruators and birthing bodies. Yeah, to hell with all that. Let's just focus on what the trans lobby demands and obediently follow those demands. If a dude with a beard tells you he is a woman, then he is.
Transsexual women believe that part of that inclusion is referring to them the way they want to be referred to, using the pronouns that they want to have used about them. I would seek to do that in that circumstance. And I think if we can do all of that, we can kind of take the temperature out of this.
So there you have it, around 4 minutes of idiotic waffle that shows where Australia's first female Prime Minister stands on this most crucial issue. She does not stand with J.K. Rowling, Germaine Greer, Riley Gaines. She stands firmly with the trans activists that have hijacked the left and modern feminism. Now, many of the women who had praised Gillard's famous misogyny speech turned on the former PM, and some made helpful suggestions on what she can discuss in her next podcast. I would love to see an episode on the Atheist Guide to Gendered Soul. Is one suggestion. I would like to see an episode on whether lesbian women are allowed to hold public events just for lesbian women. Well, not in Victoria, they're not. I like to see an episode on the use of propaganda in Australian media. Do you have an opinion on the implications for our society when leaders lie about whether their political opponents support Nazis or not? And a good morning to Victorian Liberal leader John Pasuto there and Dan Andrews. I would like to see an episode on self-ID laws that allow men like this to use women's toilets and change rooms. Now, these are women who backed Gillard, many of them who backed her famous misogyny speech. Now they want her to do better. I'll leave the final word to Angie Jones, who was defamed by the media and certain politicians for standing up for women. She wrote, I would like to see an episode on a female former Prime Minister who had the courage to admit she made a grave mistake, who reassures women and girls that she would do her best to rectify it. I wouldn't hold my breath, ladies. I wouldn't hold my breath.